Hello, everyone. My name is Smiljana Antonijevic, and I have to say right away that I'm an anthropologist. So just please keep that in mind while you're listening to my talk. This is my first time at a security conference. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm grateful to all the organizers and people who invited me. So I would like to start this talk with a few pictures. And with the question, what are these people doing? So in order to try to answer that question, I will look at two case studies of an anthropological ethnographic work that I just completed. And those two case studies are Packet Clearinghouse, which is here in Berkeley, and then the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. So I've done my anthropological study and ethnographic work in those two organizations. I observed and studied both technical and social aspects of their DNSSEC key signing ceremonies. So you will see that I will use those two terms, ceremony, which is the term that comes from computer science, and ritual that comes from anthropology. So let's look a bit more closer into those two terms. In computer science, as I said, they call it a ceremony. And this term was coined to basically describe social aspects of a key signing operation. It extends the concept of network protocols as to include humans as nodes in the network. Also, while network protocols establish standards for communication among network devices, ceremonies regulate human communication with each other and also with other nodes in the network. As for DNSSEC key signing ceremony, it is a cryptographic procedure in which a unique pair of digital keys are generated to sign DNS data, verifying their authenticity and integrity. I usually give this talk in front of a social science audience where I need to go into much more detail about this. I trust that here I do not need to explain that further. So let's see. What is it that they in computer science call a ceremony, we in the social sciences, in anthropology, would call a ritual. So basically, whenever you are faced with deliberate social behavior whose purpose you cannot readily infer from participants' acts, so when you're asking, what is it that these people are doing, you're usually dealing with a ritual. And it can be something as common to us as a wedding ritual that is presented here. To us, it might seem pretty clear what is it that these people are doing, but try to imagine that you're an alien who just arrived from some exoplanet, and you're suddenly looking at, two people who are exchanging some rings and saying some words, and there is another person telling them what to do and what to say. So there is no clear instrumental function to that. And it makes it unclear what is it that these people are doing, what is the purpose of that. So that's why that kind of behavior sometimes appears useless or even worse. However, rituals, as we will see, have very precise and strong social function, which is most of all to build and maintain trust among participants in a ceremony and also with those people who are their audience. Some of the elements which are common to all the rituals, whether you're looking at a wedding or a funeral or bar mitzvah or anything like that, so it is a sequence of synchronized activities which are performed in a special place. It can be a church, it can be synagogue, it can be a site in Chichen Itza and Mayan site or whatever. It is commonly with the use of distinct artifacts like ritual masks or knives and so on. Then it is also performed according to a strictly formalized sequence of activities which are predefined in a scripture and which are centered around a set of highly regarded values and goals that basically all the participants in the ceremony share. So please keep in mind that each of the rituals has these elements: place, artifacts, scripture, values, and participants. So let's look now how DNSSEC can be observed through the lens of these elements of a ritual. So first, the ritual place. Like every other ritual, this one is also taking place in a specific location. In this case, we are looking at a safe room. So in other words, the key signing ceremony cannot just be organized like, okay, let's go to a cafe and let's do a key signing ceremony. It is always and exclusively held in a key signing facility, which has controlled access, cameras, every entrance and exit has to be recorded, and so on. And this is only one element of different layers of physical security which are surrounding a key signing ceremony. Within the key signing facility is a key signing room, which is the room which every participant can enter. Within that room is this cage, which we saw here, which is a safe room that only people in special roles can access. So then within that special safe room are safes, which are hardened against forced entry, and which only special people like security controllers can access. Within those safes are enclosures, which are, again, which have special, each of the crypto officers and security controllers has a key to access them. And within all of that is a plastic bag. Now, since this is not just a common thing, these are not common bags. These are tamper-evident bags which are used to store special artifacts, as we will see. So altogether, we are looking here at all those different layers of physical security, from facility to tamper-evident bags. So we saw here what each of these layers of security contains. Enclosure is within a safe is within the safe room is within the facility. So now what is within tamper-evident bags? The artifacts. So again, like every ritual and every ceremony that has special artifacts, the same is also the case with a key signing ceremony. In this case, those are technological artifacts that are the core of that ceremony. HSM, smart cards, and laptop without hard disk. You probably all know that HSM is used to generate and store the keys. Smart cards are used to unlock and operate the HSM, and laptop is used connected with HSM during the ceremony, and it has to be without the hard disk so that keys cannot leave HSM. So now all of these special artifacts can be accessed and operated by special participants. As you can see here, there is a whole group of people who basically have to come together to participate in that ceremony of generating the keys and safeguarding. Particularly important are people in trusted roles, crypto officers and security controllers. You can think about them, again, like in every ritual, where you have priests and so on, so people who have those particular roles. The same is the case here with crypto officers and security controllers. They have their position is particularly important because they have the ability to affect generation and use of the keys. So that's why those roles are particularly important. Also important is that those roles cannot be held simultaneously by the same person. So no one person can at the same time be a crypto officer and a security controller. The reason for that is that there is a very strict separation of duties and privileges. Who has access to what? In other words, crypto officers have access to smart cards which are needed to operate the HSM, but they do not have access to the HSM. Security controllers, on the other hand, have access to the HSM, but not to the smart cards. So in that way, even those people in trusted roles are not entrusted a full and complete control over all of these important technological elements. And it is also important to mention here that crypto officers cannot be members of either PCH or ICANN, neither of those ceremonies which are organizing those organizations that are organizing the ceremonies, and the main reason for that is that they cannot be subordinated and thus influenced by anyone from those organizations. In other words, they need to keep their complete independence and ability to act independently and to represent the community. So crypto officers, since they're not from those organizations, how are they selected? They're basically volunteers from the community of experts that are trusted by both peers and the constituency. Their knowledge of the DNS and cryptography is particularly important so that they can act fast and make real-time decisions during the ceremony. However, what often came out during my study is that even more important than their professional expertise and knowledge of cryptography is their personal character and integrity and reputation that they have in the community. One of the reasons is that it is often believed that people who have particular prominence in the community can be difficult to coerce or to incentivize to breach trust that is put in their hands. Also important for crypto officers is to have passion for the internet security, the public good, and for serving the community. So here we see, again, all of those participants. I will just go briefly to this ceremony administrator who operates the HSM and laptop during the ceremony, and also really important develops and executes the ceremony script, about which I will talk in a minute. An external witness, usually appointed by a law firm, so it's a person who needs to verify everything. Participants' identities, serial numbers on the equipment, on tamper-evident bags, and so on. Facility operator who provides the entire logistics and also ensures functioning of the audio-video system, and representatives. Basically, anyone can become a registered representative at the ceremony, so it is very open attendance policy. Which also brings us to another element of rituals and key signing ceremony in this case, which is the values. What are those values that all of these members share and are trying to convey through the way in which they are performing this key signing ceremony? Participatory style and transparency, those are really two of the most important social aspects. So basically, as I said, everyone can participate, there are also a lot of people who are observing the ceremony online, it is being live streamed. Anyone can raise a question and say, hey, listen, I think that I see a problem here. Can you please pause the ceremony and tell me what is it that has just happened here? And everyone's considerations will be taken seriously and will be answered. Now, I have to say that it is also important to mention that only crypto officers can actually make the decisions if something needs to be changed in the ceremony, if an exception to the script needs to be made. So in that way, it is a participatory but yet controlled task. Everything in the ceremony other than the keys and credentials needs to be as transparent as possible. And there are different ways in which that is being done. One is that each of the ceremony steps is read out loud. Each of the tamper-evident bag numbers, serial numbers of the equipment, hash, and so on. So everything is read out loud and recorded. The entire ceremony is fully audio-video recorded with several cameras that cover different elements, live stream, and recording is also made publicly available after the ceremony. So here, for example, we see a camera that is showing us security controllers accessing the safe. Or here you can see that the table has marked spaces where equipment needs to be placed, used in the ceremony, so that it has the best position for cameras. Here we are seeing as soon as those people who do have access to tamper-evident bags, they're reading the bag numbers out loud and then showing to the camera so that everyone can see the number and verify it. Here we see that the ceremony administrator who is operating the HSM, you see the camera which is recording each of his movements and what is happening with the HSM. So they're really trying to capture each and every element and to make it as transparent as possible. The ceremony script and the scripture, as I mentioned, is one important element, and the ceremony script is a vital document and one of the crucial elements of this ceremony. It formulates each of the ceremony steps in really minute details. If you have ever looked at those scripts, you will see that it's like pretty amazing how every step is described. So it is really important because the ceremony is a complex process and it could be difficult to forget a step or to forget the sequence of steps and so on. So following the script really ensures that all the steps are done and done in a correct order. It also gives the standards to verify that each of the steps was really included and followed in the procedure as it should have been. And finally, it formalizes ceremony activities, which is another important element. So through that formalization, technical aspects of the key signing ceremony are structured and executed in that really highly formalized manner, which arises from meticulous preparation and execution of the script. So each of the ceremony steps, roles, and rules is carefully formulated and rigorously enacted by the ceremony participants. That creates, so it's basically, you cannot just come to the ceremony and act in a random way, doing something that you believe should be done at that moment or in a way that you believe it should be done. So each of the steps is pre-formulated and you need to follow it. That basically creates a context which transforms individual behavior into a meaningful social action. And that's something that helps us answer this question that we had at the beginning of this talk. What are these people doing? In my view, as an anthropologist, I believe that they're fulfilling the main social function of a ritual, which is to embody and to enhance cooperation and trust through that formalized and synchronized set of actions which are focused on shared values and goals. In that way, we see that those instrumental technical functions of the ceremony actually assume a clear social function. This is also a very important point, the second point. So all the participants are actually performing those prescribed rules and roles. So it is not enough just to acknowledge, okay, I understand these are the rules that we need to follow and these are our goals and values. The really important thing is to act them out. And that's why the ritual is often described as the basic social act, because it is not just a symbolic representation of a social contract. It is actually the enactment of that contract. So finally, I would like to end with this. I hope that studies like this can show us, I know that in security industry, humans are often viewed as the source of all trouble. So had it only not been for users, everything would be great. However, I believe that we can also see humans as a potent power for the enhancements of internet security. Thank you. If you have any questions, I would be more than glad to answer.
So we have some time, so if you have any questions, please raise your hand.
Thank you. Enjoyed the talk. It seems like there's a lot of transparency for the key rotation ceremonies and all of that. Is there similar transparency for the use of the private keys once they've been generated? You know, when they're signing the top-level domains and things like that. When they create a new top-level domain, is there a similar ceremony that is used in order to authorize that?
To my knowledge, all of their ceremonies are enacted in the same way. And they really they kept telling me that really everything but the keys and credentials or like the safe combination and so that everything else needs to be really very transparent, because they want to create a situation in which like nothing is opaque to the community, and that also everyone who is interested can verify their ceremony and can redo that sequence of acts.
Okay, thank you.